4, 3, 2, 1.
I told you before to be careful where you put your legs.
I was only trying to be helpful.
I can help myself.
What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on. What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on.
For 7 decades, Michael Caine has been among the world's most renowned and recognisable actors.
It was just what I needed. A 1-inch god with a 2-inch penis.
The star of classics like Zulu, The Man Who Would Be King, and The Cider House Rules.
It's a miracle no one was killed.
But also films that brought his career to the brink of complete implosion.
I made a mistake.
Somehow, he has always found a way back.
You're a big man, but you're in bad shape. With me, it's a full-time job.
In this epic podcast series, we will watch and review every Michael Caine movie, from the greatest hits
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
to the incredible misses,
You failed to maintain your weapon, son.
and take a deep dive into the life and work of one of the world's most recognisable film stars.
His name is Michael Caine, and no one will forget his name.
To understand how he has made the mark of Caine.
Well, you all settled in? Right, we can begin.
For God's sake, come in.
Hello and welcome to the Mark of Caine, our ongoing trips through the halls of Michael Caine's career, watching every movie from the nailed-on classics to the ones long forgotten by Caine himself, never mind the rest of us. And that small canon of work that is so bad that they're called a little bit brilliant. My name is Michael Foley and I'm joined as always by Stephen Black of the Mallow News. Stephen, this is a very special episode. It's the Swarm. It's the Swarm! Bees! The bees are coming! The bees!
Are you alright?
No, I've watched The Swarm. Of course I'm not alright. Are you alright?
Oh yeah, I've never been so filled with vim and vigour. Looking forward to discussing this in much detail for the first time.
Yes, I know. Vim, Vigour and Venom.
Yes.
Yummy.
Yeah, all the bee puns.
Honeybees. It's the one everybody wants to listen to, apparently. Weirdly, but I'm guessing the people...
All 30 of them.
All 30 of them. I'm guessing that these are people who have not seen The Swarm, or if they have, it's so long ago that they've erased it from their memory. I'll say this much, though. For me, anyway, there is an hour in the middle of this 2.5-hour horror show that I think in my low moments, in my low points, I will find a way back to. I
I don't think I'd ever watch this movie again. It's 2.5 hours. It's like it starts to go, all right, this is bad. Okay, it's funny bad, and then it stopped being funny bad, and now it's just bad, and there's another hour left in the movie. It's a sheer slog. Like I watched this. This is five installments for me to get through this.
Wow.
The first hour, 1 installment. The rest of the movie, 5 installments. It was a real slog.
I have to say, I found the first, I would say, hour and a bit flew, because I just couldn't. I was in tears of laughter for a lot of it, to be honest. So maybe the plot and the ridiculousness was the plot was passing me by, and the ridiculousness was getting me through. I don't know, but yeah, the last 45 minutes, it's like wading through shit treacle. It's just shocking, like.
Yeah, I'm not even sure the laughter at this stage is genuine, or whether we're developing some sort of PTSD when it comes to Caine being in terrible movies. It's just a self-defense mechanism.
We're kind of finding we're finding happiness where it does not exist. Like
the brain is kind of go, rather than having to deal with this trauma again, what we're going to do is we're kind of going to deflect by making the experience laughable.
There's no other way out. You know, when you look around, the internet as we do, what else are we going to be doing? Like, our lives are already clearly empty. We're doing this. What else are we going to be doing? Only wandering around the internet aimlessly.
Yeah, the children practically rear themselves.
If they're not rearing themselves, they've gone feral enough that they can figure it out at this stage. So you're wandering around and you see so many like articles about the Swarm, podcasts about the Swarm, the YouTube sort of collections of the best worst lines, talk of Caine's polo neck, talk of Henry Fonda kicking a door closed even though he's sitting in a wheelchair. There's so much about this awful film that's completely unjustified. But you have made, not to break the fourth wall too much, but you have made this point to me before this, like that one of the reasons for this is because people expected it initially in 1978 or whatever to be good.
Yeah, but I mean, when I say that, I think that's why it was such a big deal at the time. So obviously the internet wasn't around then, and the podcasts were something known as radio. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Radio, I
But
think. Radio.
Radio. So back then, that's the reason why the Swarm has this reputation as being so bad, because again, with the talent and behind the camera, well, in the form of the producer, turned director, Aaron Allen, and the caliber of the cast, as you know, the smell of lavender and urine off them is quite pungent.
It's pure.
But I have a theory. I
They're
have a theory that why it's so popular nowadays.
Go
It's
on.
because we're the only fucking idiots who are sitting down and watching every terrible Michael Caine movie. We're doing this in the context of all the terrible things that we've already seen, and in the context of all the terrible things to come.
Yes.
Most people who are reviewing this are just watching it in isolation, kind of go, this is a great laugh. Look at your man here, Michael Caine from Batman. Didn't he make an awful terrible movie and have the lines awful funny? We're doing it in the kind of, no, you don't understand. He's done this. He's killed before. He will kill again.
I'm going to bet like that the Swarm isn't going to even be in our top 5 worst Caines by the end of this. It's not even going to get near, I'd say.
I would imagine not. No.
I mean,
I hold out no hope.
No hope. I mean, we'll get to marks for Caine for his performance later on, and I don't think it's going to shock anyone that the number is going to be low, but it's not going to be the only one. I mean, is this a film, in your view, that is so bad it's good, or do we need to be different about this now? Do we need to be a bit more hard-headed about it?
I'm not. It's so bad it's good. I don't know. I'm a big proponent of that. I mean, I don't know how many times you watch a So Bad It's Good movie. You know, you watch good movies a lot. You watch your So Bad It's Good. I know that people tend to watch something like The Room over and over again, and they, obviously enjoyed it. You know, the cult movies essentially they're a type of cult movie. So bad it's good. This this doesn't meet that criteria because the last hour is so fucking dreadful.
Yeah,
and it's such a long movie. Like, if they maintained the level of awfulness and sheer off the wall insanity that the first hour displays, and it would maybe, I could understand a world where it would be as popular as something like The Room, where people would flock to see it in cinemas and say the lines along with it. It's just, if you did something like that with The Swarm, people would be saying the terrible lines for the first 40 minutes, an hour, and then there'd just be utter depressed silence for the remainder of it.
I think that's it. I mean, it couldn't even drag itself to bad cult status. It was like the final death nail is just the awfulness, the genuine awfulness of the last hour, 45 minutes or so. It is extraordinarily bad. So I'd say largely we'll be concentrating on the first bit. Really, I think it's fair to say. Right. So look, buckle up. This is nuts. 1978. It's a disaster movie in every sense of the word, featuring a performance from Michael Caine that is so wild. It might be his best or his absolute worst, although I think we've pretty much decided on that already.
That's his worst.
It's his worst. It's a movie routinely mentioned like among the worst movies of all time. The Sunday Times at the time in 1978 described it as simply the worst movie ever made. And who are we to argue with that? This is the story of Caine and the bees in The Swarm.
For more than 20 years, scientists have known that a swarm of killer bees has been headed towards the United States. Now, Warner Brothers presents Irwin Allen's The Swarm.
We have visual contact.
Identify.
A black mass, sir. A moving black mass. We have been invaded by an enemy far more lethal than any human force.
Starring Michael Caine, Catherine Ross, Richard Widmark, Richard Chamberlain, Olivia de Havilland, Ben Johnson, Lee Grant, Jose Ferrer, Patty Duke Aston, Slim Pickens, Bradford Dillman, Fred McMurray, and Henry Fonda.
Get inside! The bees are coming out! Get inside! You understand? Quickly get inside!
A story of courage and sacrifice.
Newman! Go for it, Joe! Move out!
Where do you even begin?
I don't want to hang around too long with this film, to be honest with you, because again, we've made the point that this has been done to death in terms of other podcasts out there that were bizarrely probably more popular than us. But I refuse to believe that.
That makes no sense.
Even my darkest hour, that doesn't make any sense. So I think give us a quick run through the plot, and then we'll go through our own particular highlights and lowlights, and we'll get the fuck out of here and back to whatever dim and dark fucking facsimile of a life it is that we actually have.
When you think this is the peak of our week, I mean, what does that say? What does that say?
It doesn't say an awful lot.
An awful lot. All right, okay. Look, let's just get through the in inverted commas plot, because to be honest, I'm going to find this hard to get through because every time the word bees is mentioned in the film, I'm just gone. So I don't. Anyway, when I mention bees in the plot, I presume I'm going to plots again. Okay, all right. It starts off, group of soldiers sent to a military station of some sort to investigate. Is it a missile base?
It's not important.
It doesn't matter. To investigate a possible attack. They find everybody mysteriously dead. Look, I can't even get over the first line without laughing. Out pops Caine straight away from behind some sliding doors, Star Trek style. Resplendent in beige, to everybody's surprise, playing Dr. Bradford Crane. Brad Crane. He ain't a Brad Crane. Renowned entomologist. General Slater, who's played by Richard Widmark, is suspicious of this guy, and Crane's theory that the station was attacked by African killer bees. They're known to believe in this. Well, Richard Widmark isn't anyway. Even after the bees take out a military helicopter. Anyway, so while all that silliness is happening, out in the countryside, a family are attacked on a picnic. I don't think I've ever laughed at a family being attacked on a picnic before. And they're all killed by the bees, with his kid being the only survivor. But he's hallucinating with the after effects of the bee sting. He's seeing big, giant bees. Crane, Caine's character, meanwhile, has been given full power by the president to oversee the operation. It's like something from The Simpsons. And brings in all these nerd scientist friends to sort things out. And that includes Dr. Walter Krim, who's played by Henry Fonda, who confirms the bees were the culprits. And this, would you believe, dear listener, was the attack that Crane had feared for years. What follows basically is like a cavalcade of awful set pieces. So the kid attempts to firebomb the bees with a bunch of Molotov cocktails, but only provokes them into counterattacking a local town where they massacre hundreds of people. Then there's an attempted evacuation to the town by train. Again, total annihilation. And that whole thing includes like the weirdest elderly love triangle you'll ever come across. A pregnant woman who tries to board the train goes into labor and ends up falling in love with the doctor. There's an attempt to drop eco-friendly pellets on the bees as they swarm towards Houston. That fails. The bees destroy a nuclear power plant, in fairness to them, and an entire town. There's some crowd. And finally, Crane / Caine figures out that the bees were attracted originally to the station by the alarm that went off at the station, and leads them out to sea by helicopter, blaring the same thing, and sets them ablaze with oil. Keep in mind that just a little while ago he was dropping eco-friendly pellets. Now he's setting them alight with oil on the sea. That's basically the rough skim. There's so much stuff here. Caine is loud. He's pointy. It's like nuclear Caine. It's like he's acting under threat of death or something. So look, maybe we start with the Caine performance before we just get lost in the swamp of crazy.
Yeah, let's start with the Caine performance, which I don't think at any stage he's on a medium setting. He's just on high all the way through. It is just shouty pointy. It's all shouty pointy. Occasionally he's quiet. There's an attempt at a romance between him and Catherine Ross's character. Catherine Ross, again, is so inert that maybe Jimmy Savile is the only kind of person that would find her in any way a romantic partner.
Oh, good God! You know what?
Yeah.
I kind of always feared the day you'd bring Savile into it, and it's arrived now. And look, I'm just gonna move on. I mean, it's safe to say that Catherine Ross, in a cavalcade of awful performances, is without doubt by far and away, and it's quite an achievement, the worst thing in the film.
Yeah, because I always thought with movies you have to go through some sort of medical in order to get signed off for insurance purposes. I would have thought that any competent doctor would have tested for the pulse.
Yes,
but she's by far the worst. I mean, in an awful movie, she is the worst thing in it. But a good old Caine, he's not far behind her there. He's just their attempted kind of a frisson of romance there. Again, like, has there been a lead actor with a history of just terrible on-screen chemistry like Caine? Has anyone else come close to it? And I include the closeted actors of the 50s and 60s, men whose entire lives were a sham in order to avoid the discrimination and the vilification of the American tabloid press and their peers. These are men who had to find love in the dark, as it were, these are men who are more convincing in pitching woo at their respective screen partners. And Michael Caine, a self-professed and emphatic heterosexual man, is incapable of showing any spark of like. I'd say it's phenomenal. It's
incredible.
actually it's so awful. It might actually be a skill. It might, you almost have to applaud. You would think the laws of probability would state at least one of the movies watched the fire could go, well, it was terrible, but boy, he sure did have a kind of a dynamic spark with so and so on screen.
It is
That's
not.
not it. It's just not there.
I think for you, I mean, my issue is, or the kind of common sort of the uh, you know, 60s cool icon Kane. I don't get that the same way that you don't get sexy Kane, sex symbol Kane. You don't, and I don't get it either. I mean, yet again,
But sure, there are people who, but they're like, you think about it, there are people who fucking think like we're at the time we're recording this, they're like, there are people have queued online in their tens of thousands to buy tickets to Garth Brooks. People love Garth Brooks. Some people out of Garth Brooks will think Garth Brooks is sexy, and to be honest, he just looks like a welder from Cootil who's enjoys a bit of line dancing at the weekend.
Yeah.
There's no accounting for taste.
There is not. No, this is true. This is true, and you're dead right. We shouldn't be judging people in those levels. But it is safe to say, I mean, there is flirting going on. I mean, keep in mind now that there is a swarm of bees massacring thousands of people, and there are moments in this movie where Caine is looking at. I mean, I think one of the first times he comes across Catherine Ross, and she's she plays a doctor in this. One of the first times he is looking at her, number one, in a very spooky, scary way, but also in a way that kind of thinks he's seriously thinking about pulling her into a broom cupboard before getting serious about the bees.
I think they could have leaned more into his weirdness. They could have just said, "What if he's a real entomologist now?" He just kind of he starts praising her mandibles, and her eyes would look even better if they were multi-segmented, like his favorite is. Just really lean into it, or if when he leans into kiss, or he performs some sort of weird insect mating ritual,
The kind of a dance or something.
or he's inviting her after coitus to bite his head off. Actually, it's the only way I can ejaculate. Can you just pretend?
What a much better movie it would have been for that. Oh, excuse me. What a much better movie it would have been. Like, look, I'm going to put it out there, okay? Because context is always important. We can. I feel a certain sympathy for him in this, okay? A certain sympathy. Before you start shouting at the cloud, just wait. Like, he took the job, clearly. He took the job for the money. He needed to buy a house. But set that aside. It's his first Hollywood blockbuster. He's mates with Irwin Allen, who produced The Towering Inferno. Sterling Siliphant, who wrote the script for The Towering Inferno, huge hit. It's his first Hollywood blockbuster. It's his first Hollywood movie since Gambit all those years ago with Shirley MacLaine. I think that Caine, there's part of his brain going, he didn't even read the script. Like, clearly he didn't read the script. He's taking it because he thinks this could be the beginning of a sort of a career as a kind of a disaster movie action hero type, and it just all falls apart at his feet. And I think
it's just as well that he had better luck with these restaurants than he did with his ability to choose franchises, because he's just managed to get his foot in the door just as people have moved away from the door.
Yes. He's timing to be out of time.
It's 1978, and he's making a movie that would have been at home in the 50s.
Yeah, it's incredible. It is incredible, and indeed with a cast of people who were more at home with things in the 50s. I mean, it really is like Mick Caine and the Seniors. He's like,
it's a cast of Love Boat. It's a Love Boat episode.
Yeah.
And in fact, the entire plot with the love triangle between Fred McMurray and Olivia de Havilland and other old actor guy, that's part and parcel. That it would just have fit in. You could have slotted it into an episode of Love Boat, and
easy.
It would have been more appropriate there than it is here. Movie does not need it. Movie's too long. Nobody cares. And to be honest with you, movie going public, won't be too ageist about it. But I think the majority of people going to see a movie in the late 70s. This is like the sin has been set alight by reignited in terms of interest due to the reemergence of blockbusters like Jaws or Star Wars. The young people are going to the movies. They do not want to see septuagenarians discuss romance in a way that their grandparents would have been comfortable with it.
Yeah, it's just just dreadful, and it's all pointless, and they all get killed, kind of effectively killed off screen anyway. So you have this whole creating of this storyline that goes
all the way through
absolutely nowhere.
all the way through the movie. Like again, as you said, the word bee in and of itself is hilarious, and fear of bees, essentially an enemy that can be stopped by closing a door and a window. You know,
Yeah.
is hilarious. But I mean, the fact that throughout this movie, you're the only person, you're on the side of the bees. You want the bees to kill everyone.
Totally.
As soon as you're introduced to a human character, you're like, yeah, take him out. And I applaud their vindictive nature.
Yep.
They kill the parents at the picnic. Little Mickey Molotov comes back after he recovers from his bee hallucination with a couple of mates and throws a Molotov sack. They then decide, right, we're going to fucking take you out, head into town, kill everyone there.
Fair enough.
And then, not even that, realize that they were survivors. And just like Michael Myers in Halloween, just fucking tracks them down to the train and kills them all.
It's impressive. It is
And
impressive.
then decide for some reason to go for a nuclear power plant. Again, beautiful setup. Nuclear power is the safest means of generating energy for our country. We should have more of them.
Oh yeah, and they take it down in about, I'd say, about 3 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. Feels like 3 hours, but
all I'm saying is give bees a chance.
Give bees a chance. Like, it's just magnificent. Did you like, actually, just before I forget, that bit in the picnic? So they're the people are having the picnic. The actors, by the way, in the picnic scene, the father is like some kind of automated, I am hungry. But it cuts then to the bee, and you see it from the bee's point of view. So you see like the multi, whatever you said there before, his eyes, you know, and he's looking out, and it's kind of like looking through a kaleidoscope or something, whatever. It's just fucking brilliant. It's like the bee is like ready to he's decided he's taking.
Oh, it's like, like a Michael Bay war movie that decided to give the POV of the cockpit of the airplane before they drop the
Oh, it's fab.
They could have done more of that, more sting cam.
We needed more sting cam, right? You're right as well, by the way. I mean, you know, we're again, as you mentioned earlier, we're recording this in an era of, you know, lockdown, COVID, etc. And I mean, it immediately comes to mind when you're sitting in these kind of situations. Basically, that's what they needed to do. A COVID lockdown would have sorted this straight away. Am I right?
It would. I mean, to a certain extent, there would have been a similar amount of deaths as soon as you told people that they had to stay indoors and to stay away from the bees. You would have had 50% of society going, you can't tell me what to do. I don't believe these things are fatal. I'll go out in the street and protest. I've done my own research online, and actually, African bees, these things are not fatal. So go out and I'm going to hug 1,000 bees just to prove you wrong.
Yeah, they would have had that, but you know, that would have happened. Yeah. But eventually, I mean, it would have saved a lot of hassle. I don't know. I think in an Irish context, we needed a Neffet, we needed a Tony Holohan sort of, you know, setting up some kind of situation. It's what they needed in The Swarm, was a Tony Holohan. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy from watching the bloody thing and my brain is gone. You know,
could be.
Venom.
Yep.
Venom.
Could be.
What else do we need to say? Some of the great lines. What I do for a living isn't important. It's vital. He's talking about himself as an entomologist. Tell him the war I've always talked about has finally started. Get inside! The bees are coming! I love the one we've been fighting a battle for 15 years against. I never thought it would be the bees. They've always been our friends.
Yeah, do you know what? Again, I would have been more the time period that they, you know, to maybe not even flashback, but I would have rather have seen an origin story of Dr. Caine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe himself and his parents coming out the back of a movie theater, having just watched The Mark of Zorro, and they're enjoying a lovely family moment, and you just see this tiny shadow on the alley wall moving towards closer. What's that, Daddy? That's just a bee, son. Oh, they're lovely. Yes, son, the bees are our friends.
Mm-hmm.
Buzzing gets more and more aggressive. Next thing you know, bee produces a tiny pistol, shoots both of the parents.
Okay.
And you just zoom in on young Dr. Caine cradling the dead bodies of his parents. He looks up at this guy, just screams, "Why?" Mm-hmm. And you cut to a training montage of him starting off, you know, fighting insects, maybe less venomous ones to start with, maybe, you know, like houseflies.
Okay.
Was up to blue bottles, then maybe up to the normal honeybee, maybe into more aggressive wasps, and go to the killer bear. You just see, you know, getting better at, you know, fucking punching bees, punching wasp, bit of bee puncher, wasp puncher,
I like
that kind of thing. Looking at stuff under a microscope, that kind of montage. Him getting his diploma from entomology college or whatever it is. I would have been interested in seeing the development, getting basically the situation that produced this maniac.
Yes. Yeah, this screaming, spluttering maniac who's saying lines. I mean, there is some
shouting lines,
screaming. Oh, I mean, it's full on, but it's fantastic because because he hasn't read the script. He's reading them, and he's going on and saying them. And I have this kind of vision of him walking off the set, going, "Did I just actually say that in that way?" And Erwin, you're happy with that? Yeah. Let's move on. This is fantastic. By the way, just when you talked there about kind of PT training to get after the bees. Did I ever tell you about I headbutted a bee one time? Like actually headbutted and erased a bee as a result.
Why?
It was in school, and the bee was kind of going around. He was just kind of floating around my forehead, and I just went, well, I'm not. If I get like the copy or whatever book was near me, I'm going to hit my forehead, so I'm going to nut him one. So I nutted him, and he just kind of wafted down, and he was a goner. There you go. Maybe they could have brought something like that to this show. I don't know. I like the way that you're improving these films, though. You've already made The Swarm, the 21st century version for me. That surely will be upon us at some point. I think these are good ideas that you need to.
Sorry, I'm not. I just try to. All I'm doing is imagining you headbutting a bee, like fucking big bee in Train Spotting.
It's exactly like that. Right. That's it. It worked. I'm telling you, it worked. Can I go back to Caine and the seniors, because I love the way he tries to justify stuff years later. So like he says, so he's gone on about working with Richard Widmark and Henry Fonda and Olivia de Havilland and Fred McMurray and all these others, and he's saying, he's just really looking forward to working with all these people, and he learned from them like the power of stillness. He says he wrote in one of his autobiographies the gestures when they made them. They were clean and deliberate. He learned so much from being around these people. What a load of absolute bollocks.
Yeah, if he was a fan of fucking stillness, he should have just remained friends with them for another 5 or 10 years. Mind you, with the exception of Olivia de Havilland, who fucking a fair play to her, had some longevity.
God bless her. It's clear they're getting the pension in here. They've seen the check and they're going, that'll see me out the last few years.
Yeah, and I said to you before, if he was that fucking invested in spending his time around aging stars, there are like hundreds of fucking restaurants around LA where you could just popped in and see them, trying to fucking cash in a coupon.
Absolutely. Do you know who I wish was in it? You know who I really wish was in this show? I really wish Olivier was in this show with him again. Get the band back together after Sleuth. I just think it would have been wonderful. Mike, he asked me. I couldn't say no. He's such a dear.
I would have preferred Olivier if he played the head of the bees, like the queen bee.
Oh, really? Like voiced it?
Yeah. No, yeah, maybe if he voiced it, but if they actually stuffed him into a honeybee costume. And he was selling it like he believed everybody, like he believed that he was the bee.
Yes. I've actually lived in a hive 3 weeks before I came on set. And I've been living in a hive. It was very claustrophobic, but I think I'm going to bring quite a lot to the role.
Every night I would drive down to La Cienega and randomly sting people.
I think I just think
they called the constabulary many times. I spent many the delightful night in jail, regaling my cellmates with my long career in the field.
I think he would definitely.
They said they'd never seen a suicide rate so high.
I would reckon he would insist on the bees calling him Lord Olivier as well. I would say, and the Ross girl. Yes, no, she must. I'm sorry, Mike. Of course, Mike. But the Ross girl, no. No, I don't know. Caine's costumes, like just forever in khaki. There's no you see it in the there's no continuity in this film. They go on dates that start in the daytime and suddenly it's nighttime and it's back and it's in and out and it's up and down. But yeah, it's dreadful. He's dreadful in it. God bless him. He has no idea what he's doing. It's a stumble from one thing to another. It's just got off.
Yes, they're all around me now.
African killer bees?
Yes.
Not likely, Crane. I've read reports of their progress. If they ever do manage to come this far north, it's 10 years away at the earliest.
Oh, yes? By whose timetable, General? Yours or theirs?
Crane, either you're some crackpot, or there's a direct tie-up between what's happened in this complex and your being in it.
Yes, well, we can clear that up fast and we can just better. Now you kick on your visual comm system and patch through to Dr. Connors in the White House.
Arthur Connors, the president's advisor?
That's him.
Anything in the movie that you want to point out? As I say, it's been done to death so much. I mean, is there anything in particular, any characters, any bits and pieces, scenes, stuff that you want to hit?
Yeah, I just want to highlight Dr. Rapey McSuggins in this.
Hello,
as Mick mentioned in the overview of the swarm, that there's a pregnant woman who loses her soldier husband, dies in the military installation attack at the start. She's left bereft, goes into labor before getting onto the train, thus saving her life. Basically is attended to by a physician who, to be quite honest with you, should be on a register rather than the medical one. The way that he leers at her when he is examining her, and then when she's wheeled out of the delivery room, she delivers a line, something like, "I guess it's true what they say. A girl really falls in love with her doctor at this time," which I would argue, and his response is, "Well, I hope you remember that tomorrow." And again, I would argue there's not a woman alive who falls in love with her doctor. The person who's sees a doctor, fair fucks to you, because it's usually a midwife called Neve who's helping you out. But if you do get to see a doctor, anyone involved in that situation, you basically can barely make eye contact with them, never mind making professions of love. Exactly. Anyway, I just thought that was only something that a man could write. Anyway, that's for sure.
This is a doctor. This is a doctor, right? He's a classic medallion wearing. In the 80s, he would have had a leather jacket kind of pushed up to the elbows. He's definitely having sex with corpses. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that is happening. It's the weirdest thing in this film. I would say. I would have to agree with you there.
What about yourself? Before we bring this bad boy in, what stood out for you? Yeah, absolute horror.
Christ above. Let me think.
Slim Pickens and the body retrieval.
Yes, the Slim Pickens. Sorry, how could I possibly forget that? Slim Pickens. Okay, so Slim Pickens of Blazing Saddles fame comes to the military station installation to find his son who's there, and he's heard of bad things are transpiring, so he's come down, and of course the son is dead. They bring him in, and the son is dead.
Not without him first threatening to turn off the water supply to the entire town.
Of course, yes,
because he's an engineer.
Yeah. I know where I know where the switch is. So they go, well, all right, then come on in, you. So they bring him down to the morgue, and they're all in these black rubber body bags, and so it takes forever. It takes forever for him to find. They literally, the camera just stays on it, and they're going through like all of these bags, and eventually they find the bag, and there's no dialogue, and he just picks up the bag, and honest to God, it's like he's kissing the gimp from Pulp Fiction. He picks them up and he kind of cradles the head, and he's kissing the head, and the camera cuts to like Caine and Widmark and Henry. Is Henry Fonda there as well?
Yeah, why not?
And like they all look, whether it's for the movie or not, they all look like going, this is quite weird and inappropriate, and it looks like he wants to make love to his dead son through a black rubber bag. And he picks him up, and this is taking forever, and the music is swelling, and he walks him out of the morgue, and he carries him home, and it is just beyond the beyonds. It is beyond the beyonds. But like, I mean, there's so much in this film. Apparently they've used between 18 and 22 million bees. I'm presuming the number is vague because an awful lot of the bees didn't want to be identified. I've actually been involved in the production.
Signed an NDA.
Yeah. I've never run that. 800,000.
All the lads showed up for auditioning on My Girl. Says there's a gap in your CV here in 1978. I was on kibbutz.
800,000 bees were destinged. Imagine some people had to desting 800,000, and feckin' poor Olivia de Havilland still got stung. The last 40 minutes, as you said, takes absolutely forever. There are just so many bits and pieces. I mean, a guy falls out a 30-story up window, but as he's falling out, there's a hanging plant outside on the wall. But then it cuts, and he's falling out out of the building. It's just beyond the belief. The line at the end, is this the end? Catherine Ross with Caine as they're watching the bees just go up in smoke. Is this the end? And Caine looks at her with all serious. We might just survive if we use the time wisely. Oh my God, they're keeping it open for a fucking sequel. They've got some balls.
Swarm 2, A New Beginning.
Oh, look at what you just did there.
Yeah.
Go on. Anything else from you?
No, that's it. Let's bring it. Let's bring it home.
There's probably tons. There's tons.
But everybody.
But look,
we don't want to be retreading old ground.
Terrible. The reception. Like, I mean, we can. This is the moment for Caine's. Kind of.
The Beception, you mean? I'm just putting B in front of every word.
Why not? It makes everything better. I mean, it made me laugh every time I heard B. So why not?
There was a terrible buzz about the movie.
There was an awful buzz about the movie. Yeah. It was nothing near as good as The Sting. The Caine's old story that he rolls out every time, like about doing a scene with the bees, with the de-stinged bees, and they're there and they're noticing dots in their clothes, and they're kind of. Caine thinks they're honey, and he starts eating. He starts picking the dots off and tasting them, and it turns out that the bees are shitting on them. So he's eating bee shit, and of course Caine's wonderful line. The first reviews are in. Oh, we can make. Okay, it was it nearly exploded my career, but hey, we can make a joke about it now.
Yeah, I think that's where we should call it quits, and that is the perfect anecdote to end it on. McCain covered it in bee shit.
I want you to riddle me this though, right? In all seriousness, right? If this happened to anybody else, what would happen? If anybody else had been in this film, what would happen to their career?
Well, the career would be over. That'd be it.
Women?
That'd be
a female actress?
Women, there's a female, like, obviously it's 1978, so they weren't going to give the lead role to a woman. But it would kill anyone's career. This should have killed his career. It did not. Again, it's just a Teflon Don in terms of walking away from shit like this. And again, it's never his fault. It's always, I never read the script. It was the director was out of his depth. People just weren't ready for this kind of experience. I'm just be experience.
Be experience. I mean, not really. There was another film out that year called The Bees that was also along the same thing. There was a bunch of 70s movies about bees. And I mean,
was Lorenzo's Oil not a sequel to this? No.
I'm going to see that film in a totally different way now after you mentioned that. It actually got nominated for an Oscar for Best Costume Design. Unbelievably.
Yeah, unbelievably. It's weird because the Oscars is just normally such the pantheon of standards, isn't
Absolutely. They get it right every single time. Cost $20 million, got back less than half, destroyed careers apart from Caine, savaged by the critics. It's just beyond belief. Right. Marks for Caine in this. I mean, in this
zero.
It has to be zero. It can't be anymore. We can't.
He can go fuck himself.
We can't justify this sort of behavior at all.
No, can't endorse it. No,
I'm sorry. So that's The Swarm. I mean, what more to say? About The Swarm? I think less is more, to be honest. So at this moment, we now, for briefly, because by the way, as you said, you'd think he'd be once stung, twice shy. But of course, he goes back with Owen Allen for Beyond the Poseidon Adventure in another couple of movies' time. So I mean, it's not like he even learned a lesson from this. In the meantime, we return to some form of legitimate Caine. His next movie is an adaptation of Neil Simon's play, The California Suite.
Channel 2 just picked you as a dark horse. They must have seen the dress.
Now, he's playing opposite Maggie Smith, who actually wins an Oscar for her performance in this. He's playing a closeted gay antiques dealer. Well, no, we know his dad wouldn't have been too happy. One of Billingsgate's more prominent homophobics, as we know. It's a bit of a jump.
It is. Well, he's not afraid to take the challenging roles, is he?
Oh God, no. Apparently not. Well, hopefully he won't be swaddled in beige turtlenecks this time, cutting off the oxygen to his brain. And hopefully it'll bring us in something slightly different from this horror.
Maybe you could use the Collider Clubs. He said a segue. In the last movie, he was dealing with antiques such as Olivia de Havilland. In this movie, he's dealing with antiques that are real antiques. That's a terrible segue, actually. So don't use that.
Let's definitely use that. That's like the Swarm. Maybe it's so bad it's good. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Maggie Smith. I like Maggie Smith.
Yeah, she's good. It's going to be fine. It's going to be
fucking great. She was fucking great in The Fall.
Sure was. Class. Yeah, class. Right. Are we done?
We're done.
Okay.
Thank you for being here whoever you are. Say, sorry, we broke the fourth wall. I know you'd like to think that maybe we're doing these things live and it's just a personal conversation between you and us. Maybe take this opportunity to say, hi, how's it going? You all right?
Hey.
How's the wife and kids?
Good.
You don't have kids? Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's maybe, what's not meant to be is not meant to be.
Exactly. Look,
so you can't have children. Oh, that's right. That's true. Oh no, your wife does not have children. Ooh. Seems like that's the kind of conversation you should have before you got married.
Yeah, maybe we can we get out of this? Can we reverse and back out of this conversation? Maybe?
As usual, ignore my pleas for you to like and subscribe, and maybe hit us up on Twitter at Mark of Caine too, where all the amazing posts on what it is that we do can be found.
To be fair, Stephen, our listenership are nothing if not consistent on that.
Yes, they much prefer the kind of offhand, long distance relationship with us, which I guess is fine. And they don't respond to kind of passive aggressiveness, which I guess is an admirable trait.
Completely and utterly admirable. Go find the California Suite if you can. If you cannot come back here, we will get it done. We are going to go watch it. And go and have. I will go back and watch a bit of The Swarm in my low moments, but generally speaking, I think I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna need some showers after that.
Yeah, I think given the amount of low moments that you're apt to have in your life, maybe find something more therapeutic. Yeah,
I go for a good bracing walk. Stephen, thank you.
Thank you, and goodbye. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. Only nice ones, though. Mean comments will make Alfie cry, and no one wants to see that. The Mark of Caine podcast is written, researched, and presented by Stephen Black and Michael Foley, and edited by Andrew Foley. Music is composed by Stephen Black. If you'd like to get in touch, you'll find us on Twitter at Mark of Caine 2. And if you enjoyed this episode, you'll find all the rest wherever you get your podcasts. The Mark of Caine is a Malo News 2 Cubes production. See you next time.